Alright, so wanted to kind of go over how we do a check this time of year in a cornfield. I walked in 3 pivot towers, or 3.5, in between the 3rd and the 4th tower from the road. So first thing I do when I get in here, stick the probe in the ground if I can get it in the ground. And then I kind of look at the first, 4 to 5 plants in front of me, okay? And I go from the bottom to the top. All right, so as we do that, I'm gonna start down here, okay? So for instance, okay, we're looking at these bottom leaves, they're dying. You can kind of get evidence on why they died, whether it's bugs or just shade, In this instance, just looking at this leaf, this is a pretty heavy spider mite pressure, okay? This is what, the 2nd leaf from the ground. Okay, so I'm going to take that, I'm going to go, okay, we got some spider mites. I'm going to look at these other ones. He's got it. This one's dead, he had it. This one has it, but not at the pressure these other 2 did. This guy's got it at a pretty heavy pressure. Okay, so then I'll kind of work up, go to these next leaves. So this would be the 3rd one from the ground. And we have some spider mites, probably at a very light to moderate pressure, but not like we did down here, okay? So as we're going up the canopy, we're still looking at all these different plants, okay? We still have some spider mites here. That'd be kind of a light pressure, I'd call that. So we'll move through the canopy here, look through these. We still got spider mites. That'd be a moderate, I'd call that moderate. So then we'll kind of come up here to the one below the ear leaf here. Got a little bit there, about the size of a quarter. The rest of this leaf is okay. All right. So then we'll get to the ear leaf. We'll check him out. Check out these ear leaves. Looking really good on the underside on that guy, and this guy. Okay, we got a little bit here, about the size of a dime. Little hot spots on the leaf. So after looking at that, then we'll look up through the plant, and we have our bacterial leaf streak, obviously previous wind damage. Then we'll start pulling back some ears, and we'll stage the plant. Okay, so now that we have our ears pulled off, I always take 3, 4, 5 ears, kind of pull them back or break them off and look at them. So as we're looking at them, we have probably about the right amount of tip back there, okay? And that's something we've been kind of looking at, over the last weeks that we've had kernels on things. So anyway, as you can see, we got some dents on the bottom part of the ear. Not many on the top part of the ear, but we got some. Then we'll kind of flick these kernels off. That's going to be dent, early dent, or hard dough. Doesn't seem that there's a starch line. So, I'd call this hard dough to early dent, stage-wise. So what we'll do now is, take our irrigation sampling. I'll go down 3 feet, and then we'll average that out for your irrigation scheduling. So back to kind of wrap up the check before I probe and write notes down and take off. We're going to think, okay, we had spider mites, up to about the 3rd or 4th leaf from the ground that were at a, moderate pressure, but then we got closer to the ear leaf, 1 out of the 5 ear leaves had spider mites on them. So then looking at that, we definitely have a moderate to heavy pressure low, but then as we get to the ear leaf, we're good, so we're staying ahead of it. We're going to beat them, which is good. And then we're just kind of keeping track of where things are at, okay? I stopped here for my check, and I was pulling shanks back, looking at ears, and we have quite a bit of ears here with some tips. It's not tip back, it's actually, we had a pretty severe rootworm problem in this field, and we're having pollination issues. Things, they came in and the adults were eating the silks. So that's something you got to, something to think about when we have a rootworm pressure that's above threshold. It's not just what it might do to the roots as a larvae, but adults, with reproduction and pollination. It's a double-edged sword. Rootworm is a pretty big deal, and it can cause wreak a lot of havoc on plants. So just something to think about. We don't like seeing ears like this. There's a lot of potential there that we're leaving on the table, and something that might cost you a couple bucks to control this. It's going to save you money. If every ear looks like this, that's, that adds up. So in this case, we have some gray leaf, and okay, we got it on. I start kind of counting up from the ground, or from the ear when we get high enough up, kind of where it's at in the canopy. So I'm looking at this plant and I'm going, okay, we have some down here. In my opinion, this would be a very light to light pressure. I've seen it worse than this, and I've seen it less than this. It kind of seemed like this year gray leaf worked up the plant more than it worked down the leaf. Now we're starting to see it work down the leaf with the conditions, the weather conditions we're having. So yeah, I'd call this light pressure. We got it on the lower leaves. It's not going to do much because, these leaves are getting shaded out. They're not the main source of being solar panels for the plant. We're more worried about these leaves up here, which, they have their bacterial leaf streak. But anyway, the main concern is the ear leaf here. And as you can see, there's hardly little to no gray leaf on these ear leaves, mostly. And if it's close, like this leaf is the one under the ear leaf, we've just got a couple lesions on here. So to me, that would be a trace level close to the ear. So we're not too worried about this, in my opinion. And especially with these times we're having, this is something where our plant immune system is going to beat. We're going to be able to still have a good ear and have a productive ear, even without treating this. Yes, it's here, but it's not really doing much, So yeah, it's out here. You might go, okay, I don't want to see it. I don't want to have it. What can I do? But, with this late in the season, or at this low of a pressure, in my opinion, it doesn't really pay to put anything out for it. We're going to beat it. If you want to save money on something, that'd be one way to do it. Okay, I wanted to show you guys this spot I walked into. So this spot has spider mites at a very, heavy to severe level. This is a field I know had it last year, and we saw it, moving through the canopy pretty quickly early. Made a recommendation, and this is a result of what can happen when they're not controlled properly. They'll just move up the plant at a very, very quick rate, and they will suck the nutrients out of the leaf. And, we're worried about protecting the ear leaf all the time. Well, here's your ear leaf, and we're at on my way in here. As you can see, I got my probe laying out, so I push the canopy back. As I walk in here, I kind of do that back and forth on the row I walk in on. Just kind of check the canopy on the way in here, and then I'll stop and do a hard check, if you want to call it that, where I'll stop and really evaluate everything. So a lot of this, especially this time of year, is observations. You're just kind of out here, okay, we've had our volunteer corn, sunflowers, things like that. We've had that for a couple weeks. Like right now, in this case, these are some non-GMO soybeans. These leaves are starting to get a little ripply. And actually, since last week I was here already, one thing I noticed is these pods are very defined, and everything looks really pollinated, and they're actually filling up top. Down low they've been filling. We got some bulges here. So that's one thing I kind of noticed from last week, just you know, remembering what I looked at last week. Very defined pods up top that we didn't have last week. So one thing, I didn't see a lot of it on the way in here. You know, on the way in here, kind of looking through the upper canopy and everything as well, just kind of seeing what's going on. Because this is a frog eye leaf spot, okay? I didn't see a lot of it on the way in here. I just saw a leaf there, just kind of give you guys an idea of what it looks like. But anyway, I didn't see a lot of it on the way in here, you know, and if I don't see a lot of it, like for instance, you know, if we're really looking at this canopy here, we don't see it, you know, it's just a trace level deal. And so anyway, kind of working from bottom to top, okay? So obviously the ground's pretty wet, you know, rolling in here. One thing I check is, you know, if it's a pivot, we go to the center point, check where it's at, it's on, which way it's going. In this case, we're in a gravity field, so it's riding down about all the way to about here, seeing which rows we're on. On our way out, we'll ride out and see what other rows are on, put it in the report. So this has been watered, obviously, with how wet it is, and I'll use my probe, you know, to do a moisture check here at the end. But first thing I do when I get in here is push the canopy back during my hard check, looking at the ground. Okay, we got, you know, the soil's wet, we got a lot of dead leaves here, so a lot of those dead leaves are probably going to be from being shaded out, you know. So they're going to fall off the plant. They're no longer needed anymore. You know, like when these leaves are just kind of yellow like this, you know, that's just a factor of being shaded out. And I don't see one thing in the lower canopy we really look for when leaves kind of turn yellow and they have a brown, you know, they get some brown specks on them. That'd be brown spot. I'm not seeing that in this canopy at this time. It might be out here in the field, but I don't see it here. So, another thing, you know, like these pods are very pronounced, and you know, they're filling pods right now, so we're getting pod enlargement here. Another thing, this residue right here, okay, we got a little bit of white, you know. I'm looking at some of these dead tissues, like why is this dead, you know. Some of it's shading, some of it's kind of turning white, you know. We can break this open and see what's going on with it. I did see, I'm trying to find some here on the way in here, I saw just a very trace, the very start of white mold, you know, like this, something like this, but on the stems of the beans, you know. So this would be white mold. A product of that is overwatering or watering too much on soil health. But anyway, so so we got our enlarged beans here, you know, nothing's really going on in the lower canopy. Kind of when we go to mid to upper canopy, we're looking for, you know, these holes, slight leaf chewing, but we're not seeing any bugs, okay? If you have a bean leaf beetle issue, you'll see bean leaf beetles crawling through here, and you'll see them kind of flying around, hopping around. Otherwise, don't really have an insect issue at this check. And then I'll do another part right next to it. Not really seeing a whole lot going on, which is good. You know, less is better when it comes to this. So anyway, just checking for beans right now. This is kind of how you go about it this time of year. And then we'll just a little pro tip, move over a row when you walk out, because these beans are starting to get tangled up. If you walk down the exact row you came back on, it's harder to walk through. So anyway, we're going to take a moisture test here, and we're going to see kind of how wet it is, and then put all that in the report. And that's kind of how we check beans right now. So